Where were you the morning of August 25th, 2014? Well, I remember where I was. I woke up in a pool of water at Burning Man, desperately trying to figure out if we sold Twitch for $1 billion. But let's rewind a little bit to a few months earlier, where we were trying to sell Twitch to Google, which was a deal that would have changed the course of internet streaming history.
How's it going? I'm Justin Khan from Justin.tv.
Hey guys, it's me, Justin Khan. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Remember to bang that subscribe button for behind the scenes stories of entrepreneurship, life advice, and many more videos coming soon. Okay, let me take you back to the beginning of 2014. By this time, it had been 7 years since Emmett, the current CEO and my co-founder at Twitch, and I had started the company. We started off as Justin TV, and 3 years earlier, we'd pivoted to Twitch. There were a ton of skeptics. People heard watching other people play video games, and they were like, why would anyone do that? But we weren't worried. Twitch was far and away the most popular esports streaming service. We had over 55 million monthly viewers, and at one point, Wall Street Journal said that we were the 4th highest traffic site in North America. At this point, Twitch had over 100 employees, and we'd raised over $45 million from Thrive Capital, Bessemer, and many other investors. Our last valuation was over $120 million. And back then, Twitch had just entered the big boys club, which meant that we had ongoing conversations with how we could work with every other big Silicon Valley company. We just signed a deal with Microsoft to put Twitch streams on the Xbox, and I thought it was gonna be huge. Now, there's an old saying in Silicon Valley, companies are bought, not sold. It had been 7 years, and earlier in the year, Emmett and I wanted to sell some shares so we could get some liquidity, but no one was buying. The best time to sell your startup is when you don't need to or don't want to. You want someone to come to the table and make you an offer. Now, enter Google. Google's corporate development team, which is the fancy name for the people in Silicon Valley who run around trying to buy companies, came to us and they said they were interested in buying Twitch. We had already been talking to YouTube about a business development deal. If a YouTuber went live on Twitch, it would pop up a little thing that said, watch this YouTuber stream on Twitch on all of their videos. We thought that was pretty cool. Hey, free traffic. While we were working on the deal, YouTube came to us and said, hey, we should just buy you guys. Now, YouTube was already the #1 platform for uploaded video, and this would pretty much cement them as the king of streaming. So what was the offer? They said they would give us $150 million in consideration and $25 million in retention. Consideration is the part of the deal that goes to the cap table. That means everybody who is an owner of the company. The retention is the part of the deal that goes to the team that is continuing on. That means all of the management team, the employees, and basically everyone who's going to work on Twitch at YouTube. This would mean after 7 years of hard work, we would sell the company for almost $200 million. That was worth considering, but we thought the company was worth more. We'd just raised a round at $120 million valuation, and that wasn't really that big of a step up. We thought we could do better. So Emmett, my co-founder, told him no, and it was a hard decision at the time. Surprisingly, they came back to us and they said, hey, how about $225 and $50 million in retention? And we were like, still no. Then they said, how about $375 million in retention? And at that point I was like, Emmett, yo, maybe we should take this. And Emmett went back to them and said, no, you guys are more than half off. It's too low. And stop with these 24-hour exploding deals. That means we'd have to sign it within 24 hours of receiving it. We're not going to decide that fast. So they kept coming back, and it went higher and higher. Then it was like 500 and 100. And then it was like 625 plus 125. And at that point, Emmett told them, well, I'd like to get the number up to $1 billion. And that's when they came back with their final offer. $850 million in consideration and $150 million in retention. I remember when Emmett called me and told me the deal, I literally fell to my knees laughing. And this is the reason why when you're selling your company, you should always look for a strategic acquirer. A strategic acquirer is going to be willing to pay you a lot more than someone who just looks at how much money you're making. Potential acquirers value companies based on their financial value or their strategic value, or a combo of both. Do not underestimate finding a strategic acquirer. When I heard about the deal, I was ecstatic. We had been working on the company for the last 8 years, and it had been a really grueling, grinding, long road. Finally, we were gonna be somebody in Silicon Valley. This was the way we were gonna make our bones. We got together as a board and approved the deal as quickly as possible. Emmett signed the term sheet and sent it back. But wait, that was just the term sheet. There's a lot more to do to close a deal. The company's got to dig up basically every skeleton in the closet, every contract, every employee, every document, and basically hand it over to the acquirers. And then after you go through the diligence process, you still have to write all of the merger docs. This is a massive, massive document that explains exactly how the companies are going to be combined. And of course, every point that you didn't put into the term sheet is going to end up being negotiated by armies of lawyers in this massive document. And lastly, after you close the deal, you still have to wait for the government to approve to make sure that it's not a monopoly. This part can really fuck you because after you close the deal, you give control of your company to the acquirer, but you haven't got paid yet until the government approves. When there's an antitrust concern, the government approval can take a long time. At the time, we had just heard a rumor that Waze had tried to sell themselves to Google and it had taken over a year for them to get approved. We were worried the same was going to happen to Twitch. After all, we were pretty much the biggest streaming site out there. We had operating costs, streamers, and employees to pay. So we had to negotiate what was going to happen after we signed, but before the deal closed. Since we wouldn't be able to raise any more money, we said, hey, YouTube needs to give us $50 million immediately as we sign this deal in order for us to continue operating. And then if the deal doesn't close, if the government vetoes it for any reason, you pay us $200 million. We wanted Google to take that risk because they were claiming that there was no risk that this failed antitrust, which we thought was questionable. And they refused to agree to fund the company in the interim. After months of diligence and getting all the documents ready, finally, we just decided to walk away. It was devastating. It felt like we were snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. We were finally going to get that recognition that we desperately needed in Silicon Valley, but it wasn't going to happen just yet. It was heartbreaking. Now, here are 3 key lessons. Number 1, the best time to sell your startup is when you don't need to or don't want to. Paradoxically, you're probably thinking about selling your company if you're having a difficult time fundraising, or you're failing to get traction, or your product's not working. But that's when you're weakest. If you even find someone to buy your company at all, it's likely you're not going to have many buyers, and you're going to have to acquiesce to the demands of whoever shows up with any offer. Now, not everyone is a founder of a company that's going to sell, but this advice still applies to you. Starting to feel like you want a new job? Start looking while you're at your current job. Work on a side project before committing to your next company. That way you can be intentional about whatever opportunities you take next. Lesson number 2, negotiating an acquisition is the most distracting thing you could do at a startup. Going through M&A is an order of magnitude more difficult than raising money because you're going to be thinking about being done. And then if it doesn't work out, you're going to be devastated. And more broadly, time is money. Time is one of your most valuable assets, so you should be intentional about how you spend it. When you're spending time, ask yourself, am I adding value or is this really distracting me from my goals? Lesson number 3, investors value startups based on strategic value or financial value. It's much more likely you're going to be valued high if you fit in with the acquirer's long-term or short-term strategy. A potential acquirer's first offer is rarely its best offer. Be confident and don't be afraid to say no. There are many negotiation strategies, but in order to extract the highest value, you 1, need to be willing to walk away, and 2, need to create a competitive bidding process. Also known as know your worth. Wherever you're at, you need to understand what value you're adding, whether that's at your full-time job or you're fundraising for your startup or anything else. Based on an understanding of the value you're adding, that's your rationale for asking for more. Well, obviously, the story does not end here because we ended up selling the company to Amazon for just shy of $1 billion. For that continuation of this roller coaster of a story, bang that subscribe button and you won't miss what happens next. All right, thanks for watching.